I want to give a special shout out to my patrons, to my Bibliosprand, Bibliosworn, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means a lot to me. Hi everyone, Petrik here. Today's video will be a book review, or to be more precise, this will be a why you should read The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. This is a mind-blowing masterpiece. I think The Wall of Storms is the best second book of a series I've read since The Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. Hopeful and inadequate. That's how I feel about this review. It doesn't matter how hard I try, it is a futile attempt to actually try to capture all the brilliance of this masterwork within a single review. But I shall try and hope I can attract more readers to trying this book and series. It's been almost 6 years since The Wall of Storms, the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty series by Ken Liu, came out. And it is ridiculous how a book as good as this is still so underhyped. After reading more than 500 fantasy books, it's getting harder and harder for me to feel completely enthralled, hooked, immersed, and transported to a different world when I'm reading a fantasy book. But The Wall of Storms did it for me. It made me remember again why I continue to love reading epic fantasy. I love The Grace of Kings, but The Wall of Storms enacted a miracle in which the sequel somehow surpassed The Grace of Kings in every possible way. The seeds of dandelion planted in The Grace of Kings bloomed in The Wall of Storms. Also, before I really begin my review, the US cover art done by Sam Weber now has a deeper meaning to it after reading the content of this book. With the antlered creature and the berries, you will find out why this cover art is chosen after you've read this book. Now allow me to begin my review. Do you know how sometimes an author requires 100 until 200 pages, sometimes even longer, before the book gets good? This is certainly not the case with The Wall of Storms. With The Grace of Kings, Ken Liu has established an iron-strong foundation for the early section of this book to instantly grab the reader's attention. In Whispering Breezes, Ken Liu also planted more seeds of chaos and excellent character groundwork we know will reward its readers in the later sections of the book. But this doesn't mean the first out of the 4 parts of the novel were ever boring. Just within the first 260 pages, I've highlighted more than 20 passages. This is the calm before the storm section of the novel, and it is already packed with subtle tensions and an immaculate display of literary prose. One out of many examples, we see the truth behind how the calendrical dozen was formed. This is told with a story within a story technique, and the revelation of how the humble orchid joined the calendrical dozen was terrific. The god of war is also the god of those who are caught in the wheel of eternal struggle, who fight on despite knowledge of certain defeat, who stand with their companions against spear and catapult and gleaming metal, armed with only their pride, who strive and essay and press and toil, all the while knowing that they cannot win. You are not only the god of the strong, but also the god of the weak. Courage is better displayed when it seems all is lost, when despair appears the only rational course. Remember this passage. This is one of the many dominant themes in the book. The story in The Wall of Storms begins 5 years after the end of The Grace of Kings. The aftermath and repercussion of the Chrysanthemum Dandelion War can still be felt. And Whispering Breezes mainly deal with 2 key plotlines: the palace examination and the introduction of Zomi Kidosu and Emperor Ragin's children. Zomi Kidosu and Emperor Ragin's children are hugely important characters in the Dandelion Dynasty series. Their characterizations and introductions were immediately executed with finesse. Liu tackles the palace examination, Zomi Kidosu's introduction, and developing the Emperor's children by juggling between 2 time frames magnificently. I personally think Zomi's flashback chapters contain one of the most endearing portrayals of mentor-apprentice I have ever read in a book. I had such a wonderful time reading the development between Zomi and her mentor, being invested in Emperor Ragin's children, especially Princess Terra, and the palace examination. As I said earlier, the palace examination is supposed to be the calm before the storm moments of the book, but it felt intense already. It felt like Liu improved tremendously as a writer and storyteller in this sequel, and the plotting, characterizations, and literary prose he put on the pages of The Wall of Storms were, in Zomi's words, so magnificent and beautificent. And then, The Wall of Storms turned from great to something incredible when Whispering Breezes escalated to gusts and gales. For years, I have seen political content in epic fantasy criticized for being uninteresting or even boring. I disagree with this. As always, it all depends on execution. And the political intrigue in The Wall of Storms are some of the most thrilling political conflicts that I have read since George R. R. Martin's magnum opus, A Song of Ice and Fire. It was 130 pages of relentless, deadly political thrillers with no shortage of pulse-pounding and heart-wrenching moments. The betrayals and the anxiety I had when I was reading this book felt so real. The reach and outcome of the manipulations and planning were unpredictable. And seeing all the domino of discord fell one by one, I was sitting with rage over one character I am actually kinda angry again right now, and I think that is good. This character is intentionally developed and put there to be hated. At least that's what I think. I'm not mentioning her name right now just to avoid spoilers, but I think if you have read this book, you will know who I'm talking about. She is undoubtedly a villain through and through. She may think what she was doing was selfless and justified, but it was the other way around from my perspective. She was extremely selfish because of her willingness to justify all her ruthlessness, provocations, and manipulations because of her outrageous paranoia. She, and only she, thought her methods were necessary. After every vile thing this character did in this book, Cersei Lannister actually looked like a saint compared to her. This level of emotional investment can be achieved when the author is masterful in writing both lovable and despicable characters. And Liu has successfully developed the myriad of characters in the Dandelion Dynasty so far, new and returning, with sharp precision. The gusts and gales of emotions have convinced me the Wall of Storms would earn a 5 out of 5 stars rating from me, and then Tempest from the North arrived and I was proven mistaken. I was wrong not because this book is not awesome, but because a 5 out of 5 stars rating may not be enough. Yes, I would give The Wall of Storms a 6 out of 5 stars rating if I could. We have seen Liu's exceptional capabilities in scheming and writing political thrillers, but what about war and battle scenes? Evidently, as much as I love the battle and war scenes in The Grace of Kings, it turns out I saw merely glimpses of Ken Liu's talent in writing battle scenes in The Grace of Kings. And honestly speaking, that was not enough to prepare me for the emotional onslaught to come in The Tempest from the North. The third part of the book, everything in The Wall of Storms, simply exceeded my expectations. Liu has constructed some of the most heart-hammering battle scenes that I've ever read in the genre. Not for one, not for two, but for several. The third part of the novel comprised of about 300 pages of the whole book, and it was embedded with jaw-dropping scenes inflicted by the exhilarating dance of hurricanes. In order to maximize the effect of the Clash of Civilizations for its readers, Ken Liu made sure two aspects were set in place. First, Liu showed that the invaders are not merely caricatures of evil villains. They are real people with real distinct cultures and struggles. Similar to the characters in the book, I was filled with wonder as they gazed upon the impenetrable and mythical Wall of Storms. Wall of Storms is a line of the cyclone that rose up to the sky from the sea. The thrill of discovery and the dangers of visiting a new land felt palpable, and it was fruitful to know the invaders' perspectives and backgrounds. In a similar fashion to Dara, the land of Ukyu and Gonde felt rich with history. In The Grace of Kings, Liu introduced us to a gigantic creature called Kruben, the massive whale that ruled the sea in Dara. In The Wall of Storms, Liu introduced Garina Finch with an exploding impact, and the face of the world will never be the same again with this creature that ruled the sky in existence. And then secondly, and the most important one, the characters. I need to emphasize this point again, and I wish I could keep doing it. Liu has created and developed some of the utterly well-written characters I have ever read, especially the female characters. I am seriously astounded and impressed by Liu's depth of characterizations here. I actually pity the readers who discontinued reading the series because they thought the series lacked well-written female characters just from reading The Grace of Kings. I disagree with this perspective. I knew Liu was playing the long game, and readers get to reap the reward here. Readers who gave up on the series after reading The Grace of Kings would not get to know some of the best female characters to ever be put in the novel. Whether you love or hate the characters, Liu excels in his characterizations. Simple as that. Gin Mazzotti, Princess Terra, and Zomi Kidosu, among many other characters in the book, were some of the most magnificent characters I have come across in fantasy. Not just because they are female, but because they were supremely well written. This is especially true for Gin Mazzotti, the legendary Marshal of Dara, a character I love dearly since her first appearance in The Grace of Kings, and now that praise has been forged with an eternal flame. There are no born heroes, and legends are just stories. Gin, you know the truth as well as I, but the world sometimes demands a man or a woman to step forward to embody the will of the many, and thus are legends and heroes born. True courage comes not from being certain and unafraid, but from doing what must be done even while being terrified and full of doubts. My deep connections with the characters are why the invasions of Dara felt so monstrous. The Liu Chu's inhabitants caused a cyclone of deaths in the island of Dara with their arrival, and I was left emotional, reeling, exhausted, and terrified by the savage demonstration of brutality, violence, and destruction. I was frightened by the massacre, and yet I was also constantly enchanted by the narrative to keep on turning the pages of The Wall of Storms. I was scared because I did not want to see the characters I love meet their demise. But I also could not function properly in real life without finding out the final outcome of the immense confrontations of whirlwinds. And so I continued, and of course the heaven shook and the earth trembled when Liu delivered the coup de grace in a clash of typhoons. The last 130 pages of The Wall of Storms exhibited intricate and breathtaking climax sequences. Rekindling the fire of hope is never easy. Seeing our beloved characters struggle to ignite that tiny and necessary spark in the threat of overwhelming darkness and evil made me emotional. Liu also unleashed his creativity in devising clever and believable military tactics during the climatic battle of Zatin Gulf. The mechanism and biology behind the technologies and creatures used in this battle were explained thoroughly. The aerial battles in The Wall of Storms are the finest aerial battles I have ever read in an epic fantasy novel. Charged with the silk-motic force, the fiery detonations across the sky to repel the invaders seemed like they happened in front of me. It was an incredibly cinematic and unforgettable pandemonium. The war is the highest test of valor in the face of horror, malice, and despair. Heavy sacrifices, unfortunately and realistically, will have to be made. But can the House of Dandelion achieve victory? Well, I have said more than enough in this review. I will leave the detailed, captivating reading experience and outcome for you to find out for yourself. I unseat the dot ender when I articulate this. The Wall of Storms is an indisputable and marvelously crafted masterpiece, brimming with characters that sink deep under your skin, engaging war scenes, meticulously expansive world building, and lyrical prose equipped with the pearl of wisdom. The Wall of Storms is one of the best books of all time. The content inside The Wall of Storms felt equivalent to reading two superlative epic fantasy novels in one package. The judgment of history will decide whether my praises for The Wall of Storms are deserved or not. I am not sure whether or how the remaining two books in the series could top this book, but I am happy to be proven wrong. Based on everything I've read by Ken Liu so far, I feel inclined to say that he is a genius storyteller and he has become one of my top favorite authors of all time. And now it's time for me to end this review with a parting message. I encourage you to read this series. Even though I'm not done with the series yet, the Dandelion Dynasty has already become one of my top favorite series of all time. And I am hoping The Veiled Throne and Speaking Bones will make me love this incredible series even more. And I look forward to reading them, but for now I will just say bravo Ken Liu. I am absolutely in awe of this masterpiece. So yeah, that's my review for The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. As you can probably tell, I am absolutely in love with this book and I am so looking forward to reading The Veiled Throne within next month. Do let me know whether you've read the Dandelion Dynasty series yet or not, and if not, do you plan to pick this book up? Please do, because believe me, you won't hear me shut up about this series for a long time. As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye. And lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons for supporting me even more.